Hi, my name is Nick La Marca, and welcome to my ArtBreak. Thank you to Kalamazoo Institute of Art for having me. It's a true honor, and thank you to Rahima Barber for thinking of me when the Future Now exhibition was coming to her space. Um, Being able to take a piece from my master's thesis was really uh, a great opportunity, and I'm super thankful. So, just a little bit about me. I've been trained in photography, and it has evolved into kind of mixed media, and where I kind of create experiential exhibitions to frame the subject matter that I kind of research and try to highlight for the viewer. Um, so let's get started. The first piece that we'll look at is the one on display right now at KIA. It's called Soul Lines. If uh, you've been able to see it because it's right in the entryway before the Future Now exhibition. It's been up since February, and it'll be on until June. So what are we looking at? We have essentially made telephone poles, fabricated telephone poles with wires and sneakers hanging across this thing. Um, so, what is it supposed to mean, really? This collection of sneakers is actually my entire like almost my entire collection that I've collected over the past 20 to 25 years or so. And it is in linear order from oldest to newest as far as, I guess, purchase date. Not necessarily models, but just purchase date. Um, and This has been a labor of love for 20 years of just collecting. But putting it out on display had a different mindset. It stems from a project for my master's thesis, which was called Holy Grails, and this was just one aspect of the project. Um, a little bit about me, and the reason why I did it this way was I'm born and raised in New York City, and sneaker culture was something that I was brought up on very early. I'm born in the 80s, and so that's showing my age. But throughout the 90s, sneakers kind of blew up with the advent of hip hop culture. That was the space I grew up in, and being in New York and through the public school system, like the things that you can, the tactile things that you can have and show off were sneakers. And my family didn't see the value in that. So my mom didn't want to splurge on anything like that, which is fine. Just a single mom in the city, I fully get it. But the minute I turned 18 and had my own job and knew how to, at least save to procure what I wanted, um, this is kind of what I invested in with my time. Whether that was good or not, that's another conversation. But as far as this is concerned, it was my labor of love, my passion, and I really enjoy all the different types of shoes, the colors that you can mix and match, and things like that. So again, the whole Holy Grails project is about the sneaker reselling and how the whole marketplace for sneakers just generally was born out of urban culture. So this was just a way to harken back and tie in my own personal um, connection to the subject while also critiquing and criticizing some of the practices today. So the project had, which you'll see some of the images from later in this presentation. I'll show a couple of the portraits, but basically, I had portraiture and video interviews and just kind of imagery from the conventions for like the things for sneaker reselling, essentially. So I would go across the country to conventions, and I took pictures and did interviews, and basically met with a load of beautiful people that I may have been on the either side of the debate with, because some of the resellers, while I have my own personal issues with reselling, the people are just doing what they have to do to make money. So uh, while I don't necessarily like the practice, I can't fault someone for trying to find another way. And this it really blew the reselling blew up really after the pandemic. Like before that was a little bit about the reselling aspect of it, but it really wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't what I was competing against when I was trying to just get shoes for my own collection. So uh, that's what the project was kind of looking at and understanding. So what do we get? So when I do my work for art, it is definitely more art as a social practice. I use the ability to create something, whether it's a sculpture like this or the portraiture or whatever, is because I think the beauty is in the people and in the opportunities. The beauty is in the opportunities that these situations and these places give that not many people understand. How like there's a primary market for sneakers that is in the trillions of dollars, but the secondary market is essentially just in America is up to 30 billion in what seems to be overnight. As far as art as a social practice is concerned, um, most of my work revolves around that kind of approach. So it started very early with my photography career when I went to school for my first degree in art. Um, I was already 30. I had a very, very tumultuous time with just attending college generally. And like failed out a lot. And don't get me wrong, that probably not the best, but it did leave me with the opportunity to do other things that a lot of the people I grew up with never had that opportunity to do. I took my wayward personality when it came to trying to figure out school and just really just dove into work and what that kind of entailed. And I ended up living across the world because of it. Lived in Italy, Australia, different countries, different states. Excuse me, and that very much that um, that travel bug, not necessarily a travel bug, but it's just a this need to be somewhere different or to explore. Very much just comes from my being in New York, because early on I went to high school in Manhattan, even though I was born and raised in the Bronx. It was an hour to and from school with public transportation at 13 years old. And my mom was not taking me to school. So I had experience on public transportation since much earlier on alone. But today, that's pretty much unheard of outside of New York City. And so that exploration for me really drives my work, because I grew up in a diverse city. New York City is culturally dense and diverse. And when I was in school throughout K through 8, everything is diverse, but it's just your neighborhood that you're seeing. And as a kid, that's all you really understand. But then when I went to high school, I was now going to a school that wasn't for the neighborhood. I was for a school for the entire city. I tested and portfolioed for art and design high school in New York, and now I'm with other artists. Um, and what did that do? These other artists are from all over the city. I didn't just have the neighborhood experience; I had the whole city experience at an age of 13. I was traveling to Brooklyn, Staten Island, Queens, all after school, sometimes during school. Not to say that's right, but when you had that kind of freedom, you didn't know what you had until you did it. And I really took that experience into my life. And that's what brought me all over the world, because I really wanted to experience what I could. And that's what I went into when I started to really consider art as a career. Um, After having failed school, it was the only time that I ever felt happy about school. So the first project I did was about a subject matter I don't necessarily have any direct connection to. Um, it's the project is called Work as a Drag, and it was video interviews and portraiture and scene imagery of scenes uh, for drag queens getting ready for performances in New York City. I kind of got into it as a because a friend from another city came into town and took me to a show, or asked me to join them at a show, and it was hilarious and funny, and ended up meeting one of the performers because they went to high school with one of the people I came with, and so we were talking, and ended up that person was that person was uh, actually connected to me as well outside of this person. We ended up working at the same restaurant just a month apart. And I had literally left a month before they came in, and they were there for the next year. So we had all the same mutual friends. So it was really fun to meet them. And Jesse was honestly one of the best connections I could have made, because they knew other obviously performers. And then I had met some while I was in school, and I did another project and included that person in that project as well. Um, so I'll start with some of that imagery from there. You may notice, if you are into that scene, you may know who this person is. So, well, this isn't Jesse. This is Alexis, Alexis Michelle, or Alex Michaels. Alexis Michelle is the stage name. I was there for one of their performances. The interesting one about this one I was put on by Jesse, and I'll show Jesse in a moment. Um, Alexis, this originally didn't really wanted to do the interview and wanted to do the photo shoot, but this was actually the Wednesday after the 2016 election. So the next day. And what happened in the 2016 election? Uh, so Trump won, and that made Alexis obviously very upset, and both myself and him very upset. But uh, they were debating whether they wanted to do it, and they essentially came to the decision that that's what they wanted, and to trying to make this a celebratory night, as opposed to a down and depressing one. They really wanted to do their performance, and they wanted to try and spread joy in what turned out to be maybe pretty dark. So this was Alexis while they were getting prepared. And it was really great conversation, and I truly believe that they're one of the great performers, because one, I know them, and two, also, if anybody knows who Alexis Michelle is, they were on one of the seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race. Um, and what's funny is that they weren't actually able to tell me that night. I found out later, because they had obviously signed an NDA. They had said some stuff to other people, and I had heard vaguely, but I wasn't going to bring anything up that they didn't exactly want to talk about. So it was great to learn that. And then this is Jesse, the one who had put me on with Alexis, and Jesse Havea. Is actually named Brita Filter. Their performer name is Brita Filter, and this is also in a later season did all RuPaul's Drag Race, and don't get and Jesse was absolutely hilarious and positive and just a ball of joy. Um, and this is them getting ready. This is actually Ishala. Ishala is they, them. They were actually in the process of fully transitioning, as opposed to Jesse and Alexis, who perform in drag but actually live their lives day to day in a masculine form. But Ishala was different. They are immigrant from Mexico, on asylum for with just horrible treatment for where they came from. And but Ishala, actually, I met in class. We were in the same theater class, and they were absolutely great. They were another person that was a bundle of joy and fun. And one of their performances, that while uh, Alexis's performances really revolve around singing and performing, because they were a University of Michigan alum, actually, out of their theater program. So that's I'm also a University of Michigan alum, which happened well after I've met with Alexis. But it was great to find that out, because I was already a Michigan fan. But Ishala was in my CUNY, LaGuardia Community College school, and they were really awesome, and their performance was comedic stand up, but in Spanish. So I didn't get to understand most, but seeing from the reactions of the crowd that when we were at that performance was pretty good. This is Brita Filter outside of one of their performances, and this was these all these photos are from 2016, 2016, 27, no, 2016, 2016. Yeah. And but yeah, so that was the work as a drag project. And it really got me into the spirit of um, finding the subject matter of just through conversation. So this ended up being about like the grueling kind of steps that they have to take to be just to perform. Um, they were like they would put themselves through 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours of makeup to just get ready for a performance. And sometimes it's just one performance, sometimes it's all day long. And it was just about highlighting the labor of love that it was for them. And um, it was it was what sparked my interest in having the back and forth with the subject, so that they have more than just a photo of a photo of themselves. They have a voice in the subject. So that's how I kind of tackle the art as a social practice. This was Jesse just heading out for a performance, and I saw them when they were walking up the stairs and heading out right out, and that was what the idea behind this one here. The next project I did was about soccer hooligans, or I called it soccer or hooligans, because that's what they call soccer supporter clubs and fans. And so I followed supporter clubs for the Red Bulls in New York and in New Jersey, New York, and the NYCFC teams. Mostly with the Red Bulls, because I had a direct connection there with the director of marketing. And so I basically joined this supporter club, not having grown up playing or watching soccer. It was not in the forte in New York City for my family. But I grew to love the sport. I grew to love the fans, because they just want to enjoy themselves. It's a very family friendly. Most of them are very family friendly. And uh, I knew that they did this very specific during home games parade from like the local bar to the stadium before every home game. And I knew I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to get inside and take those photos. And this is from one of those parades, and the police lock it down for them just to do this every time. And so they do their chants, their celebrations, their marching through this road in Harrison, New Jersey. And obviously this is the Red Bulls, all the red. But yeah, like it's it is a very wild and crazy scene at some of these things. This is actually in the supporter club section of the stadium. And this is actually Tim. He's a social studies teacher in Jersey. And one of the loudest and most fun people. He brings his daughter to the stadium. She literally grew up before in front of everybody's eyes. We met her as a small child. She's now 18. um, and it is awesome to see. Um, this is right at the beginning of the game. They all show off their scarves when they're doing the chants, and I wanted to capture this moment and this scene. This is actually from the pulpit um, right after a score. So I'm if you've ever seen a soccer game, I'm not saying you have, but if you have, there's at stadiums in the U.S. and Europe. There, if there's a supporter club, they get a lot of access to the field that traditional fans don't get because they obviously have an agreement and a familiarity with the stadium staff. Um, and so they get a full-on pulpit of a person that people from their club can kind of rile up their sections and create and basically lead chanting and lead celebrations. And by being able to kind of jump in with them, they happily let me join and get up on top of there and take my photos from there, looking from the field in towards them. And this was right after a goal. You could see everybody celebrating. You can actually see the same guy doing the same motion with the the red smoking flare in the other photo. And it was just a it was complete pandemonium, and that's what I wanted to capture, was that love, that excitement, and just that pure awe of a moment that you can only see if you're looking at them as opposed to looking at the field. And that's where that one came from. The next, my project I did as my, I guess my bachelor's thesis, if you want to call it that, my senior project for my bachelor's, um, in 2019. It was called "All You See Is Crime in the City." What is, or "All You See," ellipses, because it was a long title. It actually, the title stems from a graffiti piece in the 80s that was featured in Style Wars. It's a graffiti documentary from back then, and the artist Scheme, Skeme. That phrase came from him. He had painted it along the side of two subway trains, and you would be able to see it because if you've been to New York, you know that in the outer boroughs, especially, there are elevated trains, and so it would essentially be a rolling billboard all the way from the Bronx to Brooklyn. And he had meant it with he had done it, but he also wrote it out in his graffiti style or whatever. And he really he put also he put cops in the image of when he wrote it, and it I've actually spoken to him since, and he fully agreed in my analysis, and that it was about what people see when they were in their mind's eye. It wasn't about just what you see. It wasn't a physical seeing. It was about when you think about New York or when you think about the Bronx, do you think about the people? Do you think about the location? Or do you think, oh, it's crime riddled? And that was very painful, one. Two, very much it's something I see on on a regular basis, or when I talk to people about where I'm from, they sometimes I do get the, oh yeah, is it crazy there? Like, how, what's it like? And it's just this complete misunderstanding of the life that happens here. And so I really wanted to, one, show a different side of the city, the people. So this project actually was a series of portraits as opposed to a series of like moments. It was moments as well. It was a series of portraits, a series of moments, and a series of landscapes. um, which uh, which was all came together in an exhibition that I did. And this is actually my first time creating an exhibition that was that experiential installation that I talked about in the beginning of uh, my predilection for making the scene. Um, so the project itself was about the gentrification of New York City and the view that those people kind of have of the city that they're coming into, but also about the redevelopment of neighborhoods, or how people in those spaces that are traditionally from those spaces navigate in the face of redevelopment that isn't for them. Because if you I did a lot of work in Port Morris, the South Bronx, and all these luxury high rises are going up, and this is the poorest district in the entire state. It is like 64 of 64 counties for that section, and it's the poorest in healthcare, it's the poorest in education, and it's the poorest in just dietary nutrition. Like this place, it had the most obesity rates in the entire state, and um, it was all about how these things are coming in, but it isn't built in to come in and cater towards them. It's cater towards the luxury high rises that are going up. So these three, four, $5,000 rents for a place where there's people still living on rent that's six, seven, $800. Like, and let's say those perfect people get displaced, where are they moving? Now they have to leave their neighborhood because the only thing that's going up is a three or four or $5,000 rent location. How are they supposed to take that hit on their income? So this was about trying to, one, change the narrative of what people see when they think about the city. And yeah, um, this was Timothy. This was a street portraiture I did with him. It's actually a 4x5 camera. Um, I really loved working with my 4x5, especially for portraiture. There was just nothing that can compare as far as clarity and depth. And yeah, and I wanted people that were every day and just as they're walking, and whether they wanted to, be a part of the project. And Timothy was gracious enough to, let me do this, and it was really great. And then we move on. This is John. He's actually a florist, but a floral designer, actually. He had a studio with his partner in Port Morris, and this was just him arranging something around the office for me. And this was one of those. It was just a beautiful moment inside this studio. Another 4x5. This is Ralph Jones. He not anymore, but he was actually an instructor at the New York Public Library. He would teach to the community like tech classes through their adult learning center in Fordham, and he was kind enough to let me take a portrait of him. And yeah, another thing I did, which I'll actually explain when it came to the final exhibition for this project. Um, so this picture here is from the street. This is actually this picture here is from the street. I essentially created an outdoor gallery on a space that was being renovated. So this is the plywood walls outside of the traditional, to delineate that this is a construction zone. So I used essentially like kind of wheat paste images, and put those up as kind of a thank you for them and also to the city. Um, because this was actually 2020, no, 2021, just like we were in the height of the pandemic. This was a way to show Bronxites the beauty in themselves while also giving them the experience without having to go to some gallery to do it. This was on Fordham Road in Grand Concourse, which is a high traffic area. Um, it is a business hub for the Bronx, and lots of stores, lots of people. But obviously, during the pandemic, people weren't really able to go to stores. They they would have, if they were going to this section, they were going usually to the train is right around this corner. And so I wanted to do this, give them this time to see beauty without having to, travel for it. I wanted it to just be in their neighborhood, and this was my way of kind of doing something beautiful in a kind of dark and lonely time. But this was a way to show those people what they look like. And how I got to this idea was when I did the original project in my thesis project. I actually created these same kind of walls, which that normally say "post no bills." I created that as the background of the photos that I took. Um, so when you were walking through, you look like you were walking through redevelopment of a construction site, so a development site. So I did that as the back for the images that I took for my final project, and that's how I was able to, think of this like, oh, if I already did it for my project, why don't I just use the walls already created? And I created this essentially a gallery for the people to enjoy, and that was my way of giving back in the pandemic. So this is actually from the Holy Grails project that we talked about earlier. This is Aisha. Um, she's Miss Jones. She's actually from Cincinnati, and while she does occasionally resell, normally she's a collector. The only time she resells is, let's say, she doesn't fit it, or she won multiples and she just needed to get offload some. Things happen when you come to raffles and draws and things like that. So she is actually a content creator, but also she is a firefighter and EMS out of Cincinnati. So respect to her. And she has somewhere upwards of like 700 sneakers. It's an insane number. Destroyed me by 7 times at least. Um, but yeah, this was her inside of her space, and inside of her essentially walk-in closet. And she has this surrounding the entire room. But yeah, she was a great person to be connected to. She goes to conventions. She's always on YouTube channels. She's out there for the world to see, and she's got great style. And I loved everything. She was an amazing person to get in contact with. This is Michelle. She's from Detroit. Um, she's up again with another 600, 700 pairs. But if you notice, the differences between the two is that she has more variety as far as collection is concerned. Aisha is a very much a Jordan 1 head. So she has more of those than anybody. Whereas Michelle has more of an eclectic style, so she loves the Adidas and things like that as well. And while we all love the Jordans, some of us have just do like different styles, and different regions come with different styles that you'll learn over others. Midwest versus New York, California, everybody has their own kind of thing, and sometimes that leads to there's a very different like slant or a leaning when it comes to looking at their collections. And that was great to see through this opportunity of meeting everyone around the country. And this is my portrait. Actually, I included it in there so one that people knew that I was actually a part of the world that they were that I was, criticizing or researching, and then and then um, so I had this one in there, and then I also had obviously the shoe um, telephone pole installation and the shoebox installation. But this was just my way of being a part of it, and yeah. Oh, sorry. The next set of photos is actually kind of this is where I've like left off and had completed projects. The next project I've been kind of on and off doing for the past few years. Um, I partnered with the person in the next photo, where they took my photo as well, and I'll show you that one after. And this was Rondell. But Rondell, as I said, grew up here. He was traditionally very active as a child and young adult. He used to be an instructor for a martial arts school, all that stuff. But he fell out of, I guess he had an injury of some sort and didn't get to be as active as he had used to be. And that took a toll on how he viewed himself. And he was very sensitive to the way his body had changed from what he was used to, and so that was what I was trying to capture with this photo. Rondell was willing to let me take this photo of him as he looked into the mirror for to gaze on his own body, and it was a sense of vulnerability, which is actually what I'm trying to chase um, with this project. It is about masculinity in the face of vulnerability and trying to explore that dichotomy, I guess. Um, because as for my own self, I know it's hard to be vulnerable in any way, whether it's about my physical appearance being vulnerable or just my own sensitivities or feelings. It is tough on us, and I'm sure it's tough on anyone. But I wanted to explore that relationship in men to vulnerability because traditional gender roles make that a much harder conversation for cis men. So I'm trying to look into um, that conversation more with this series of images, and between Rondell and myself, having him, I taking one of him and him taking one of me, um, we have we work together on this thing, and where he's given me his blessing to continue on with the project with this image, and so that's where I'm trying to go moving forward. So I just wanted to show this as an image to show where my head is going as far as art is concerned, and where my work is kind of moving. Now, do I have an idea of how to make that an experiential exhibition? No, not at all. But I'm very much in the infancy of this project, even though this is a years old photo at this point. But it's very much uh, in the back of my mind, and very much in the back of my mind and the tip of my tongue, essentially, that I'm trying to. This will be the next thing that I'm working hard to explore. So yeah, and the next photo is of myself that Rondell had taken, in the same kind of vein. It was the same day, but yeah, this was from his senior exhibition. Um, but this line of photos is supposed to try and highlight vulnerabilities and showcase the male relationship to that, and yeah. So hopefully this project can take off, but if not, um, but yeah, that's what I'm working on, and so that brings us to the end of this art break. Apologies if I rambled a little bit too much. I'm sure I did. It was very hard. But thank you for coming to this art break and listening to me and seeing my work, or at least some of it. My website is www.nicklamarca.com. There's more images from from those projects, at least most of them, on there, and I hope you get to enjoy them. But thank you for having me, and um, thank you KIA and Rahima for everything you've done for me. I appreciate you. Have a good day.